Hello, I am an Indo-European. Wise people try to establish when and where I was born, and who gave me my name, Franz Bopp or Jakob Grimm from Germany or Rasmus Rask from Denmark, but I grew very important to everybody. A couple of centuries must have passed since learned people of different countries started looking for my original homeland. For some of them, my homeland stretches around the Baltic, Black and Caspian Seas. For others, it is in close proximity to Europe, in Anatolia, which today is called Turkey. And still for others, it is in the Balkans in the south of Europe. And still for others, it is in the location around the Caspian Sea, strangely called Eurasian steppes. I have progeny. Some of them are called Celts, some Germans, Balts, Aryans, Slavs, Latins, Greeks, Hittites, Albanians, or even Tocharians. They are pretty inquisitive about their origin and how they came to be what they are today. Well, they have less to do to find their homeland. The territories they inhabit are considerably smaller than those of mine, the Indo-European part of the world. But the origin of the Balts today is still quite obscure. I remember that back in 1872, having investigated some burial grounds on the Baltic coastline, Tartu University professor Konstantin Greving declared that my kinsfolk Balts had never lived on the coastline of the Baltic Sea at all. Some unheard of Finno-Ugrian tribe abode there, while my progeny wandered into that region from God knows where only in the 5th century AD. Everybody believed him, irrespective of the fact that in 1893 Vilnius professor Adalbert Betzenberger maintained that my kinsfolk had dwelt on the Sambian Peninsula in Prussia, even in the New Stone Age era. According to the present-day calculations, it should have been some 3rd millennium before Christ. This region had remained ascribed to the Finno-Ugrians down to the 4th decade of the 20th century, when German, Lithuanian, Latvian and Estonian archaeologists at long last substantiated Adalbert Betzenberger's statement about the early origin of Balts related to the eastern Baltic coastline. Some light was shed on the Finno-Ugrians too. They turned out to have been traders. They traveled a lot, sold flint and other goods, used to settle by the major waterways, and became deeply rooted so that even toponyms of the language have survived in Lithuania. Thus, learned men reached a consensus about my kinsfolk Balts having lived in the Baltic Sea from the olden times. They wanted to find out where we came from. And here they remembered me, the primeval Indo-European. And I started traveling in their scientific works, began mixing with other tribes and families, till in the end one part of me here on the eastern coast of the Baltic Sea was given a new shape, that of the Baltic branch. You Indo-European Balts should find the ideas of the Lithuanian archaeologist Marija Gimbutienė about me and my trips to the Balts quite interesting. She says that Baltic culture is made of 2 interwoven layers, mine the Indo-European and the Old European or indigenous layer. Marija Gimbutienė also discovered my original homeland in Eurasian steppes by the Caspian Sea, as well as the dawn of my tribe, which was given by the Kurgan culture people. It was a highly belligerent and patriarchal tribe. The foundation of the community were warriors. The lowest rank were ordinary stock breeders and hunters, and at the top they had the ruler and the pantheon of male gods. Such was my tribe when around 4300 BC we broke into Central Europe, into the old European culture, which Marija Gimbutienė describes as harmonious and peaceful land ruled by female queens and female goddesses, which knew nothing about horses or armaments. I am not in a position to substantiate whether it was really so, but I am aware of people having had to suffer numerous wars and clashes. Nobody wants to lose his language, customs, habits, traditional way of life, or to give away daughters or wives to the aliens. But, as she states, we were superior. We had horses, good armament and good warriors, experience of wars, and warriors who ruled us. It was not difficult to break that peaceful community. We understood, however, that the new land and its new people were the basis of our new life. We imposed on them our language, our gods, our customs, pattern of our society, taught them to fight, and learned from them to work the land and other crafts. We did not have to wait long before there was too little space in Central Europe. The first wave of Indo-Europeans, which grew in the soil of old European culture, and which you call globular amphora culture people, turned to the eastern coast of the Baltic Sea already in the 3rd millennium BC. We lacked stamina, and having encountered Narva culture people by the Šventoji and Kertuonas, we stopped. The new wave, which you called corded ware and boat axe culture people, swarmed into the eastern coast of the Baltic Sea in around 2500 BC. We corded ware culture people were quite numerous in Europe, and we had very many things in common. We produced axes of polished stone, which were boat-shaped, decorated our pots with cord ornaments, produced ceramic amphorae, and buried our dead in barrows. When we arrived in the eastern coast of the Baltic Sea, we found the indigenous people there, European Nemunas and Narva culture people. Stockbreeders and tillers, expert craftsmen, hunters and warriors, they quickly absorbed our ideas. Our genotypes were being mixed. The new language and social structure, religion and customs, new technological ideas were spreading, and in the second half of the 2nd millennium BC, a new Indo-European Baltic culture was born, in the vast stretches between the Vistula in the west and the Oka in the east, between the Daugava in the north and the Dnieper in the south. That mixture made us new people, but learned people wanted to know which culture took the upper hand at the birth of the Balts. Marija Gimbutienė maintains that it was the Narva culture. Her opinion is shared by Algirdas Girininkas, while Rimutės Rimantienės argues that the first Baltic littoral culture formed in around 2170 BC out of 2 local elements, Nemunas and Narva cultures, as well as 2 imported, globular amphora and corded ware cultures, Nemunas culture element being the most important among them. In any case, everybody agrees that Balts began with the seacoast culture people. But the most mysterious thing is that having lived only very briefly, my first Baltic posterity, as Lithuanian scientists argue, evaporated into the thin air in around 1750. They are unable to trace the direct ties of the seacoast culture people with the Bronze Age Baltic people of Western white barrow and striped pottery culture. Well, it's a riddle, which will be answered little by little. As I have mentioned, my original homeland is searched between the Baltic and the Black Seas. In 1994, Algirdas Girininkas, a Lithuanian, joined the group of researchers. He argues that I did not have to arrive from some place because I've been living here since the glacier recession times. That happened 11,000 years before Christ. People of Kunda and Nemunas cultures were real Indo-Europeans since Mesolithic times. More than that, they already spoke the Baltic language. Thus, it may be said that ancient inhabitants of Narva and Nemunas cultures, and we, the newcomers, people from globular amphora, corded ware, and boat axe cultures, were Indo-Europeans. There was no need to impose our language, way of living, customs, or gods. All of us Indo-Europeans who lived in the northern regions, as well as those from the south, came together, mixed our genes, and exchanged among us new ideas and technologies. In this way, our new branch, Baltic culture, appeared in around 5000 BC.